Today in Augusta, the drought conditions keep getting worse, affecting about 900,000 residents.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Leah. Welcome to Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett in Augusta. First up, worsening drought conditions threaten Maine's ecosystems and agriculture. The U.S. Drought Monitor, which is a national map that tracks dryness across the country, now shows more than half the state in at least moderate drought. Severe conditions are hugging the coastline, and that touches about 900,000 people. This drought started last summer, peaked in late October, briefly eased in spring when rain arrived, but because it didn't stick around, it slid back into trouble in July. Southern and western Maine have had only about half the normal rainfall for this point in the season. That kind of deficit stresses trees and landscaping, raises wildfire risk, and not gonna lie, hits farmers right in the yields. Groundwater, meaning the water stored below our feet in wells and aquifers. An aquifer is basically a natural underground rock layer that holds water. Groundwater is also vulnerable right now.
Yeah, that checks out, and it's rough. Agriculture around the Kennebec Valley depends on steady rain or affordable irrigation. When soils dry out and groundwater drops, farms spend more to keep crops alive and yields fall. That ripples through farm stands, markets, and, local jobs. It also means more stress on forests. Dry fuels can turn a small spark into a bigger wildfire faster. I'm really hoping we catch a pattern shift soon, because otherwise, this becomes a longer economic hit, not just a hot, dry week. Next up, Maine lawmakers are launching an investigation into the tragic death of a young Bangor boy, Braxton Smith. The Government Oversight Committee, think of it as a bipartisan group in the legislature that audits and reviews state agencies, is ordering an independent look at how the Department of Health and Human Services, or DHHS, handled any prior contact with the family. Braxton died from severe abuse. His father has pleaded guilty to murder and is awaiting sentencing. His mother and grandmother pleaded guilty to manslaughter and received sentences with suspended time. Lawmakers are drawing comparisons to child deaths in 2021 that already raised alarms about the child protection system. With a new governor due to take office in January and appoint DHHS leadership, this review is meant to pinpoint any systemic failures and guide reform.
This one really resonates with me. When you hear the details, malnourishment, bruising, burns, that's just devastating. And I keep asking, why? Why did warning signs not trigger a stronger response? I get that caseworkers face huge caseloads and tough judgment calls, but the visible harm here is undeniable. The review, if it's thorough, needs to explain where the process broke, whether it was reporting, follow-up, information sharing, or training, and then fix it. Real talk, families and kids do not have time for half measures. Switching gears slightly, next up. The family of Johan Sebastian Duran Guerrero, a Colombian man shot by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE for short, wants criminal charges in the Biddeford shooting. The state's investigation is a criminal probe, meaning they are looking at possible crimes, and there is also a separate federal review. Guerrero had work authorization, no criminal record, and people who knew him describe him as calm and peaceful. Bringing charges against a federal agent under state law can be complicated because of jurisdiction, basically who has legal authority, and certain legal protections. The identified as David Bruyette, and public records say he has a history of domestic violence and mental health issues. That information raises tough questions, though. Of course, the legal process still has to run its course.
That's a heavy one. The intersection of federal authority and state criminal law is honestly a maze. Investigators have to reconstruct the moment-by-moment choices, figure out whether use of force met the legal standard, and deal with the fact that the agent is a federal employee. Transparency matters here, and so does patience, because these parallel investigations tend to move slower than we want. Still, with the public records raising concerns about the agent's background, I think people will want very clear answers about screening, training, and supervision too. Next up, a tragic plane crash in Bristol claimed the life of John Hall, a 54-year-old pilot from Lee, New Hampshire. His son, Tyler Hall, survived with non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators say an emergency was declared due to engine issues before the aircraft, a Diamond DA-20, went down in about 4 feet of water in Pemaquid Harbor along the Bristol shoreline. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, and the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, are investigating. The FAA sets aviation rules, and the NTSB digs into causes to improve safety. Early reminders here are stark. Maintenance and emergency readiness are critical, and that includes practicing checklists so muscle memory kicks in when seconds count.
What a heartbreaker. Witnesses rush to help, and that kind of immediate community response is powerful. It does not change the loss, but it matters. For prevention, I keep coming back to 2 threads: maintenance records up to date and routine emergency drills. In plain terms, that means knowing the plane, knowing your exits, and knowing the steps by heart. The NTSB's final report will take time, but lessons from it should be shared widely at local airfields, including Brunswick Executive and the regional strips pilots here use. Last up, Vice President J.D. Vance returns to Maine for a visit to Compotech in Brewer, a manufacturing facility. That's just across the river from Bangor. This follows his earlier stop in May when he spoke at Bangor International Airport about Medicaid fraud. No details yet from the White House on what he plans to say at Compotech, but the pattern points to a focus on local industries and the broader economy, jobs, supply chains, and, keeping plants competitive.
I'm curious about the specifics, whether it is workforce training, federal contracts, or tax incentives. Manufacturing here can really benefit from clear signals on investment and hiring. If there's any new funding or pilot programs, even small ones, that can ripple to vendors and logistics hubs from Brewer down to Augusta. We'll be watching the details because the policy fine print is what actually shapes paychecks and production schedules.
And that's it for Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett in Augusta. Have a great day and join us tomorrow.